I've been in recovery for just under 5 years, and what that means is I haven't used any mind-altering substances in that time. I used a myriad of substances, but primarily heroin intravenously. I started using opioids after I was prescribed some Norco after getting my wisdom teeth removed. And that kind of opened up Pandora's box for me and made me less scared to try other substances. In fact, my entire dad's side of the family, they're all addicted, have a lot of other mental health issues. So for a long time, I was the kid that wouldn't use any drugs or alcohol. Well, once I got to college, I pretty much tried every drug under the sun, and they became my solution for everything. When I look back on my life, just about every strange or odd behavior or thing that I did that didn't make sense was tied back to me wanting to fit in, overcoming that anxiety and trying to get myself to be numb so I didn't care so much. And that's the solution that I found with heroin. My sixth and final overdose was in the family home. Both of my parents witnessed it. My sister, her boyfriend. That was a big deal. That now it wasn't something that was just something they'd hear about. It was reality. The fact that they could lose me at really any time suddenly wasn't just something that they heard from the police reports or from the doctor or so on. They witnessed it. If you fast forward to today, things really haven't changed that much if you look at the central pieces of the way that I live. And that is, I still do what my recovery needs me to do. I'm still flawed. I still have work to do, and that's okay with me. And I still surround myself with people, both in my personal life, professional life, my recovery life, that can do that for me. And it's my job to stay in that humble palms up posture all the way through it. At different stages of my addiction, those looked different. And even today, there's still a component of treatment and recovery in my life. It's a lot more autonomous. It's a lot less clinical, but it still includes seeing my doctor once a year. If it needed to include MAT, we could certainly do that. I still see a therapist periodically. If you want to be healthy, you run, right? And you keep doing it and you exercise. And so it's kind of like that for me. I want to stay in good recovery health, and the way I do that is maintenance. And that's how I'm going to prevent relapse. Recovery isn't something that just happens in the hospital or treatment center. You're managing symptoms in the illness itself, but then there's also the need for a strong community around you. There's the need for a sense of purpose, and I'll come back to that, and the need for a safe and stable place. To me, the sense of purpose, that's not 100%, but a big part of that can fall onto an employer. I can tell you right now, a big part of the reason why I'm doing as well in my recovery today as I am is because I have a job that makes me feel like I'm making a dent in the world. It makes me feel like I'm living up to my full potential. I'm going to keep trudging forward. I'm going to stay in this humble posture because I have a reason to. And then on top of that, safe and stable housing, that's a heck of a lot easier when you have a job. And it's a heck of a lot easier for people in recovery to have jobs when their employer is supportive of recovery, and they make their workplace recovery ready. The employer that I had when things really went south, they really had no awareness of where I was at, but I also don't think that it was anything that they were concerned about or really looking out for. As far as when I was in my, severely active addiction, in early 2014 and on, I was actually working on an orchard north of Indianapolis, and my employer was supportive enough that, he was willing to let me take days off to go handle my treatment, actually weeks at a time in some cases. And as a result, I was able to come back and work for him. The support from Mr. Wild at his orchard was really kind of invaluable. And, while I did know him on a personal level. Having an employer be able to look at me and treat me as a human being instead of somebody who's breaking the law or morally bankrupt or things like that. I was looked at as a human being and as an asset for the business that he's trying to conduct. Every time somebody enters recovery, 5 other people's lives are drastically impacted as well, whether that be mom, dad, daughter, whoever. If their lives are being so drastically impacted when people get better, how is it being impacted when the person is still sick? The impact of substance use disorder on somebody's life who's doesn't even have the use disorder themselves, that's something that demands intervention from behavioral health professionals. There are issues with codependency, with abuse, with, trauma. People living in constant fear of somebody that they love losing their life, that's not a small thing. And so just like we need to provide a palms-up posture workplace for the employee and provide the resources for them to get better and reach their full potential, we need to do the same for people that love somebody with substance use disorder. Their loved one's behavior has made them sick as well, and we need to support them, give them the resources that they need to, 1, be as stable in that situation as possible, and 2, recover as much as they possibly can. I think that people who love somebody in recovery have their own recovery as well. We need to provide those supports too. This is a lot more common in your workplace than you think. Most of the people that are seeking treatment today for a substance use disorder are employed. So this isn't like, this might be something that impacts us. No, it does. You just may not know who it's impacting.
All right, well, right now I am a stay-at-home mom. I'll be going back to work in a couple weeks here. My daughter, Kinley, she'll be 7 months and about 10 days now. And my path to recovery was a little different than most people. I got in trouble at work and was pretty much confronted with a couple of different options, one of which for me, since I'm a nurse, was called ISNAP, Indiana State Nurses Abstinence Program. It is now, the state has a new contract with a different program, the Indiana Professionals Recovery Program. With ISNAP, I called and voluntarily, kind of, for lack of a better way of put it, turned myself in, said that I, in need of some help. And the process was a little difficult, but it was pretty much just, I signed an agreement form saying that for a 6-month period of time, I had to call in once a day, and they would tell me during my call-in if I was required to go take a drug test somewhere. It was terrifying. Up until that point, I truly did not think I had a problem at all. I owned my own home. I was financially secure and stable. I had small scuffles with family, but there was nothing major going on in family life. And up until getting in trouble at work, I was stellar at my job. I was wonderful at it. And so I didn't think I had a problem. So kind of getting in trouble at work and being faced with it was kind of my whole life crashing down around me. I felt like I came from a family where this did not happen to us. We don't get in trouble. We don't have substance use issues in our family. We have a family history of it. So it was pretty eye-opening and pretty scary, to be honest. But I did what I had to do to kind of keep my life in track and make sure that I kept my nursing license and did what I could to make myself better. I worked very, very hard to get my nursing license. I overcame a lot in my personal life in nursing school to get my license, and I'm only halfway through where I want to be in nursing. I have my LPN license right now, and my goal is to get my RN and maybe in the future become a nurse practitioner. And kind of being faced with having to be cut off like halfway through my professional goals in life was terrifying, because if I can't be a nurse, I have no clue what I would do. Absolutely no clue. I very much love being a stay-at-home mom right now, but I can't picture it for myself forever. I very much like working, and I love being a nurse. So not being able to do that was being faced with potentially not being able to do that was my definition of rock bottom. I'll start at Options Behavioral Health in a couple of weeks here. So it was, again, a mental health facility. So they are very familiar with addiction and substance abuse disorders and all of that. And so it was, again, met with understanding and, kind of the attitude where, hey, your license is in good standing now. You completed ISNAP in full compliance. And they can look up on the state board and see the transcripts from when I went in front of the board to get my license off of probation and all of that, and can see that I did everything right. And so it's not as difficult anymore. It's not as scary, especially now that my license is within good standing. I think that the most important is offering treatment, offering an avenue for them to get treatment. If they have in their insurance, maybe like an EAP program or something. But after that failed drug test, maybe meeting with the substance abuse counselor and being evaluated by a substance abuse counselor on if they need inpatient treatment or maybe just some drug education classes or courses on, the impacts of drugs in your life, et cetera, stuff like that, I think is probably the best thing that employers could do instead of just kind of, oh, you have a failed drug test, you're sitting for 30 days from work now. Approach it how my current employer approached it with future employees. People in recovery carry a lot of shame from decisions they made in the past, mistakes they've made in the past, and truly, like the one time, my parents tell me all the time that they're proud of me because they're my parents, but like the one time that it really impacted me was when my future employer told me that you're starting here with a clean slate. Until you give us reason to believe that it's not that's not the situation, that's how we're going to treat it. And being able to enter an environment with that level of support, that's not even a huge support system. That's just saying, hey, you're starting here with a clean slate. That may seem small, but to somebody like me that still carries a lot of shame and everything and kind of views myself that way, that was a huge thing to go into that work environment feeling that way, and it made me excited to work there. And so giving new employees an opportunity and a chance to prove themselves and to kind of put their past behind them and not make them feel like they're still carrying their past with them can make a huge difference in the work ethic and camaraderie, I guess you could say, of a workplace environment. And I think that's really important for future employees to get from their employers.